How's it going, folks? Welcome back to the channel. So the transfer window has shut, as you can see in the bottom right corner. That's exactly what the transfer window did last night. Celtic have signed 12 players in total. In this video, I'm going to be looking at those signings and rating the depth that Celtic have in each of those positions now. Let's get straight into it. So as always, if you like the videos, hit the like button, drop a comment below and get involved in the conversation, and subscribe to the channel as well. I'm aiming to get to 5,000 subs. We're growing every single day. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed. But if you do like the videos, if you do watch regularly, hit the subscribe button below and you get notified every time a video goes live. So let's start with the incoming transfers. So as I said, Celtic have signed 12 players in total this summer, and I'm going to run through them in chronological order in which I think they joined the club. But if I'm wrong, do correct me in the comments. Ozai Urquidy joined with Liam Scales first. They joined from Sheffield Wednesday. Then Lil Abada came into the club with Kyogo Furuhashi. Kar Starfelt was next in the door. Then Joe Hart and James McCarthy, who came in on the same day. I think they came in the same day or a day apart. Josep Juranovic joined last week with Liam Scales. And then Georgios Giacomakis and Jota joined last night with Cameron Carter-Vickers, a surprise signing late on last night. He joins from Spurs on a loan to buy deal. According to Transfer Market, Celtic have paid £19.2 million for those players. The outgoing transfers, and I've left some players off the list. I've just gone for the more important ones. Apologies to you, Okoflex, who is going to have a fantastic career at West Ham. Odsonne Edouard has left the club. He's gone to Crystal Palace. Christopher Ayer obviously left earlier on in the summer transfer window. He went to Brentford. Ryan Christie has gone to Burnley. Bayo gone to Ghent. Scott Brown obviously left at the end of last season. He's gone to Aberdeen. Lee Griffiths has gone to Dundee on loan. Olivier Ntcham has left the club, and Fed is gone as well. There are a couple of others as well that I've left off the list. Total that Celtic have got for those players, including the ones that I've left off, £32 million. So they've made profit this year, 11 million in profit in terms of transfer or net spend, whatever way you want to do it, the fancy way that people are calculating how much clubs have spent these days. So Celtic's net spend is around £11 million altogether for 12 signings. So I'll give you my general thoughts, and then I'll get into the ratings of what I think each position is like now at the club after that transfer window. In general, 12 signings is an insane amount of signings if you look at it from a purely, transfer perspective. And what's baffling about it is that Celtic are still short. So that tells you the position in which the club were starting. It was a rebuild from the bottom up. 12 signings and Celtic are still short in certain positions, certain key positions. It is absolutely astounding that it got to this point where 12 signings was not enough. In general, and I don't want to come off as a board apologist, but 12 signings is a lot. You can't really complain too much with that. I mean, you're probably maxing out at 14 signings, maybe bringing in a centre mid, maybe bringing in another left back. But in terms of what it does to the overall structure of the club, I mean, are these players all going to connect? Are these players all going to fit in straight away? How long is it going to take for these players to get to know each other, get to know each other's ticks on the pitch, how they work? That all comes down to the coaching staff. Obviously, a good coach can do it. But if you think back to teams that have overhauled their squads in one summer, it hasn't always worked out. Spurs obviously springs to mind, the year that they sold Gareth Bale and brought in 50 attacking midfielders. So I think 12 signings is as much as you're probably going to hope for in a transfer window. Obviously, there are weaknesses. Obviously, there are positions that Celtic are still short in. And obviously, they didn't get the business done before the Champions League, and they paid the price for that. That is the disappointment of this transfer window. That's the legacy of this board. That's what I think we should be most down about. I don't think we should be disappointed with how many transfers have come in. I don't think we should be overly annoyed by the fact that we're short at centre mid or left back. I think we should be annoyed that we did not get the business done in time to be in the running for the Champions League. But because realistically, Ange was on a fool's errand trying to get to the Champions League with the squad that he had. So I think overall it's been a semi-successful transfer window for Celtic, and I'll get to the ratings of each position, and I'll dive deeper into the positions and what my opinion is on each of those positions later on in the video. But I do want to touch on the players who have left the club. Odsonne Edouard left the club to Crystal Palace. Now, I did a poll, not so much a poll. I just asked the Huddle Breakdown Twitter what they thought of Odsonne Edouard, and a lot of the replies were that they didn't like him at the end, that his career was almost tainted at Celtic because of the lack of ambition or the lack of hard work or, attitude. His attitude wasn't right. And some people were saying that George Samaras was better. Some people were saying that Gary Hooper was better. Odsonne Edouard was brought to the club to score goals. For 3 seasons in a row, Odsonne Edouard was Celtic's top goal scorer. Even last year, when things were shite, Odsonne Edouard scored 22 goals altogether in all competitions. 22 goals Odsonne Edouard scored for a player who was not, he wasn't playing to his potential, wasn't there, didn't want to be there, his attitude wasn't right. He scored 22 goals. So take Odsonne Edouard out of that. What are you left with? Nothing. Who else was doing anything? Nobody. Scott Brown was shite. Cal McGregor didn't play to his potential. Shane Duffy was awful. The goalkeeping situation was a mess. The manager was a numpty. What did you expect from Odsonne Edouard? That is my question. If being the top goal scorer at the club for 3 seasons in a row is not good enough for you, what is? What do you want from Odsonne Edouard? That's my question. And everyone's entitled to their opinion, and if you think that Odsonne Edouard tainted his career by not having his attitude correct, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Odsonne Edouard looked like he always wanted to be there. I'm not saying that Odsonne Edouard tried his very best last year, but nobody did. And I think it's incredible that at this point in time, a player who has been a key player, and I mean one of the most important players Celtic have had in the last 3 years, in winning trophies, in scoring important goals. If you think that he didn't play an important role after scoring 28 goals 2 seasons ago, what do you want from him? Do you want him to score 40 goals a season, 50 goals a season? How many goals is it enough for Odsonne Edouard to get the respect that he deserves from Celtic fans? I think the reaction to his signing or his departure from the club was not what he deserved for a player who has been so important for Celtic over the last couple of years. So I was bitterly disappointed that a lot of people thought that he tainted his Celtic career last year. I mean, Scott Brown tainted his Celtic career last year. If that's the case, that's where we're at. If you're judging a player on last season, then every single player at the club tainted their career at Celtic last year. So I thought Odsonne Edouard was one of the most talented players that we've had at the club, especially in the last decade. Rivals Moussa Dembele for the best player, and incredibly important for the trophies that we've won. And then the last one I'll talk about is Lee Griffiths, gone to Dundee on loan. I would like to hope that that's the last time we see Lee Griffiths in a Celtic shirt. Hopefully that will be made permanent, and hopefully he's never back in the club, because again, he's not worth it. He's absolutely not worth it. Let's get into the rating. So this is very loose, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the goalkeeper, the defence, the midfield and the forwards. Now that we know what the permanent squad is for the rest of the season, I'm going to give it a rating out of 5 based upon the strength that we've added and what we have in those positions. So the depth chart as it stands: in nets we have Joe Hart, Barkas, Scott Bain. Then at right back we have Josep Juranovic, Anthony Ralston are basically the only 2 right backs at the club at the minute. Centre back Stephen Welsh, Karl Starfelt, Christopher Julian, Nir Beaton, Dane Murray, Ozai Urquidi. I would add Skills to that as well, and Carter Vickers as well to that as well. Greg Taylor, Adam Montgomery. Again, Liam Skills can probably play left back, and then Volleyball and goalie. In midfield, very short midfield, Cal McGregor, Ismail Asaro, James McCarthy, Liam Shaw, David Turnbull, Tom Rogic, and then up front and on the wing, Lil Abada, James Forrest, Kuromoko Dembele. In the middle, Kyogo Furuhashi, Georgios Giacomakis, and Albion Ajeti. And then on the left, Felipe Jota and Mikey Johnson. So that's the depth chart. Let's start with the goalkeepers. So in total, Celtic have 3 goalkeepers. I would give this position 3.5 out of 5 if I were to rank it. That's with Joe Hart coming in. Joe Hart is a good goalkeeper. He's a good leader. But Celtic should have prioritised someone a bit younger, someone who's going to develop at the club, and somebody who's better at playing with the ball at their feet. I think we saw glimpses of what can happen in the worst case scenario, what can happen if Joe Hart makes a mistake with his feet. AZ score a goal. So that's the issues that we raised on the Huddle breakdown. I'm not saying that that's going to happen against Dundee. I'm not saying it's going to happen against St Johnstone. But when you get up the levels, when you're playing European opposition, when you're playing against teams that are going to put you under pressure high up the pitch, that can happen. So I think Celtic should have prioritised someone who's a little bit more comfortable with that. But I do think Joe Hart has been excellent since he's come in. He's clearly been an improvement on Barkas, clearly been an improvement on Bain. But the issues with him still remain. He's not good enough with his feet, and that is going to cause some issues in Europe and against better opposition. I do think he's been a good signing, so 3.5 out of 5 is actually pretty decent if you're looking at the rest of my rankings. Defensively, 2.5 out of 5 I give the Celtic defence in terms of what we've added to it and what we have. So Josep Juranovic has come in, Starfelt has come in, Urquidy has come in, Carter Vickers came in last night, Scales as well. So why is it 2.5 out of 5? So I would give it a 2.5 out of 5 because we've added quality with Juranovic. I think Starfelt will come good. A couple of prospects in Urquidy and Scales. Carter Vickers, I don't know enough about, but it seems that he's a pretty decent signing. Spurs fans that I know have said that he's been pretty alright. He hasn't been amazing, but he's a decent. He could be a decent signing. In terms of 2.5 out of 5, why is it 2.5 out of 5? Still horrendously short at left back. If Greg Taylor gets injured, then it's Adam Montgomery and maybe Liam Scales. Again, I've said it all season last season, Greg Taylor is a great backup option. He's a great squad player, but he's not a starting left back for Celtic, and that is going to cause us issues. It caused us issues against AZ in the first leg. Then when he got injured, who do you play there? Do you play Juranovic there? He's not a left back. Liam Scales, I think, can come in there. I think he will do a job there, but is he ready for first team football for Celtic? That question still remains. And then I think the jury is still out on Starfelt. I do think he will come good. He has a mistake in him. He does have a mistake in him. That much is blatantly obvious, but I think he will come good. I think he will be a good player eventually when he finally settles into the team. So overall, I think it's a 2.5 out of 5 for this window in terms of the defence. Urquidy is still a prospect, but he looks far off where we need him to be for a first team player. And then across the pitch, when Christopher Julian comes in, when he's fit, when he's finally ready to play, if he doesn't get injured again, I think Celtic have a pretty solid defence there, especially at centre back. You know, you've got a depth chart of Welsh, Starfelt, Carter Vickers, Scales, Julian, Beaton if you need him. So that's a very solid base that you're starting with in terms of defence. But left back and right back, we're still pretty short. In terms of the midfield, I've given it a 2 out of 5 in terms of what Celtic have brought in and what is there. 2 out of 5 is the lowest rating that you're getting because I think the midfield needs some serious strengthening. James McCarthy is the only player coming into the midfield. We are incredibly short there at the minute. In terms of what that does, what Ryan Christie's departure does to the team, it sort of unsettles the midfield a little bit as well because Callum McGregor has been playing as the 6 for Celtic under Ange so far, especially against the lower opposition. If Callum McGregor gets injured, then James McCarthy comes in, I would say. Then Ismail Asoro, maybe Beaton can play there as well. Liam Shaw is there as an option, but I think he's far off the first team as well. But then you're left with just Turnbull and Rogic as the players who can play in more advanced positions. So it potentially could mean that James McCarthy is a starter for the team and Cal McGregor is going to be pushed up out of the 6 and into the 8. But in general, it's an incredibly short lineup that Celtic can actually put together here for midfield because Cal McGregor, Turnbull and Christie were supposed to be the starting lineup, but now that Christie has left the club, you're left with just Turnbull, just Rogic. So likelihood is that Celtic are going to be starting with Cal McGregor, Turnbull and Rogic. That's not a lot of legs as the midfield if Celtic are caught in the break. If Cal McGregor gets injured, then you're left with James McCarthy, Turnbull and Rogic. If Turnbull or Rogic gets injured, then you're looking at just Rogic or just Turnbull as the creative spark in that midfield. So you're looking at a midfield that doesn't have a lot of control, doesn't have a lot of pace, and is one injury away from being incredibly weak. So midfield is definitely somewhere where Celtic need to strengthen up, and it's somewhere that we're going to really struggle with this year, especially if Cal McGregor, God forbid, gets injured. Moving to the forward line, this is the best. I've saved the best for last. 4.5 out of 5 I give Celtic for this forward line. Kyogo, absolutely sensational. Lila Bada has taken to his first team role straight away. Giakoumakis was the top goal scorer in the Eredivisie last season. Still have reservations about him, don't worry. Jota was playing first team football in the La Liga last year. So overall, I think it's actually pretty decent. You're replacing goals with goals. Ozan Edouard leaves, his goals leave, but Kyogo is going to fill that void. Lila Bada is a step up on what has been there over the last couple of years, and is giving good competition to James Forrest. Now, I think James Forrest might come into the team, be that on the left, be that on the right, but Lila Bada has been brilliant since he's come on. Although I will say this, being overly reliant on a 19-year-old winger is not a great model to be, so it's good that James Forrest is there as an option. Giakoumakis, jury is still out on him, haven't seen him play, but top goal scorer in Eredivisie, must have something about him. The one reservation I would have about him, and I said this about him on the Monday agenda, is that number one, why did he score so many goals? Number two, why did those goals come out of the blue? Why did he just explode? And can we replace, or can we recreate that situation that led to him scoring all those goals? That is the question. He seems to be very good with his head, so I think he's going to be a backup option to Kyogo. I don't know if he's going to be starting. And then Jota on the left wing, again, quite short on that left wing in terms of options. Mikey Johnson can obviously play there. I think James Forrest can play there as well. So I think overall this is our strongest position. Our forward line is our strongest position, and as a team who are looking to dominate games and score loads of goals, that's where you need to be strongest. Defensively, we might get away with it in terms of the opposition we're going to be playing in the league, but midfield I would have some serious reservations. So in terms of the overall transfer window for Celtic, if I were to give it a rating out of 5, I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5. Did we get all the players that we wanted? No. Do we have all the positions filled that we need to? No. But we've got a really good goal scorer. We've got a good backup to that goal scorer. A couple of good wingers. Centre backs that look like they're going to be okay. And a right back who's playing really, really good stuff for his league team, is a international for Croatia, and a goalkeeper who has proven himself on the world stage. So as I said on the Monday agenda, this is a project. This is a long-term project. Were Celtic always going to get all the players that they wanted to? Absolutely not. Did they get some key players in? They did. So you have to weigh up what the realistic opportunities were in this transfer window, what the realistic outcome was going to be. I think 12 signings, I mean, you can't really hope for much more than that. It's a long journey. It's going to be a long trek to getting back where Celtic want to be, especially if Celtic want to be a European competitor, especially if they want to get to the levels where the likes of Salzburg or whatever team that you want to compare them to in Europe are. It's going to be a long-term project. So I think this is a good starting point. Absolutely not resting on their laurels. They should be starting right now to get players in for next summer. That's where Celtic are at. That's what they should be doing. That's what the board should be doing. That's what the scouts should be doing. And that's what a club like Celtic should be doing. We should not be waiting until next year to find out who we want, and should be putting a list together. And I have no doubt he is putting a list together of the players that he wants next summer, and he wants them in the door by the Champions League. What do you think of the transfer window in general? What do you think of the rankings? Do you think I was unfair? Do you think I was being too lenient? What do you think of Celtic's transfer window overall? Let me know your ratings in the comments below. And again, if you do like these videos, subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get to 5,000 subs. I'm nearly there. Not quite there, nearly there. But subscribe to the channel. You'll get notified every time a video goes live. Thanks for watching, folks. We'll chat to you later.